Hi, everybody. It's Mama Kay coming back at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I am thrilled to have this next person as my guest today. Not only are they a fantastic band teacher, a mentor to many seasoned band teachers already, but to many students coming up through the education system, but they are also a fellow cruise lover. And we were just commiserating as to the cruises that we were supposed to go on this year that have now been postponed to next year. But we are also plotting, so it's very exciting. So without further ado, special guest, who are you?
Hi, I'm Don. Hi, I'm Don Horbas, a longtime band director and recently retired, and a good friend of Joanne's.
I'm so lucky to know you. I was trying to think back too as to how long I've known you. I know that you and I recently, we've been doing a lot of work through the university, but I think our first runnings in to each other was when I worked at St. John's Music.
It was at St. John's. I remember you quite well. You were just as perky and vivacious back then as you are now. You were a great store rep there. And I think as a student, I can't remember, you were still a student or maybe you were just graduating. We brought you out to our school division in Interlake to adjudicate at our festival.
Absolutely.
Worked with several of my flute players.
At the Rockwood Music Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I taught a few of your flute players as well. Always great people, always just a fantastic time out there. So Don, tell me about your teaching career. Where did you start teaching?
Oh, I started teaching in the old Tiger Hills School Division. This was based just close to Souris Valley, south of Brandon. We got married in 1981, and that was my first teaching position. We lived in Glenboro, Manitoba, which was the center of the school division. And I did an itinerant position with 8 schools from, what would have been about 1981 to 1989.
Now, did you travel to all those schools or did they come to you?
I drove every day.
That is incredible.
I worked out of Glenboro. Then my circuit included Cypress River, Holland, Treeherne, going east towards the city, and then going south to Balder and Belmont and Pilot Mount, which was a lot of travel.
When you had concerts, were they 8 separate concerts or did you have like a joint concert together?
In some cases, they were joint concerts. In some cases, I would do 2, 3 a week. We spread them out like Christmas season. It was always crazy. End of the year, you could sort of work it to fit the schedule that you wanted. I had a lot of leeway and a lot of very supportive administrators then because they knew the situation I was in. But the band program was very, very strong there for a long period of time. Once the division started having difficulties, they amalgamated. Tiger Hill School Division is no more. And with that sort of collapsing of that older system, they can hit their Prairie Rose now as the school division. It's quite a bit larger. Tiger Hills was the largest geographical area in the province at the time, excluding the north. But now with Prairie Rose, it's even larger. And there was a lot of economic difficulty there. There wasn't really a large commercial center. The small towns had a harder time supporting the tax base to keep the schools going. Most of the schools that I taught in have closed now. There's probably half the number of schools in that area that there used to be, but it's spread out over a much, much wider geographic range now.
So where did you move from there in 1989?
We moved into Winnipeg. My wife, Kathy, took a position in Seven Oaks, and I was ready to take a year off, maybe go back, do some schoolwork, do some studies. The Interlake School Division at the same time was thinking about expanding its band program. So I had a interview at Stony Mountain and I hit it off pretty well there with the guys. I was sort of what they were looking for, somebody with sort of a rural experience, but with enough background that I could sort of be flexible and create a new program there as well. So we started the program at Stony Mountain. And then the next year it expanded into Stonewall and Toulon. And after that, it just kept growing and growing.
And is that where you did the rest of your career?
up until I retired in 2017. So I was based
Now,
in Stonewall and working still with a feeder school in Stony Mountain and Balmoral, just to the north of Stonewall.
so again, they would have come to you though. You wouldn't have had to have been traveling to them.
No, it was still an itinerant traveling position. It was important to keep the programs, the parents and the administrators really wanted the programs to go into the schools.
So that up until your retirement, it was that way.
Yep.
And it's still that way right now?
It is currently that way as well.
That's incredible. That's as we know, right? It's no matter what school you're at, it sort of probably feels like a full-time position at that school, even if you're not full-time there, right? So I can't imagine the amount of energy it took to do that position.
Again, I had flexibility and I had control over how the system was set up, how the timetabling worked, how the scheduling worked. And the administrators understood that. When I first arrived there, they were very hesitant, very resistant. I went into a meeting with, and this was a division that had principals in place for 20 to 30 years in the same schools. So
they had a strong tradition going.
Yes, of not having music in the programs. But I came into a meeting with the superintendent and the principals, and I had everything mapped out, planned out. This is how I would do it. This is how the travel would work. And not one of them could find anything wrong with it. And the rest worked out really well.
That's great. You come in there with a plan.
Yeah, once they realized I knew what I was doing, I was very focused, and it was going to be a positive experience, everything worked out well and continued to grow.
Fantastic. So Dawn, let's go way back in time to baby Dawn, because we want to find out why you even got into music. What got you there? So go way back. What was your musical journey?
Way, way back, last century. It's like forever ago. There was always music in my family, from a very young age. My grandparents on my mom's side immigrated from the Ukraine. On my father's side, from Austria-Hungary, they were Polish. We lived in Lebo, Manitoba, which is north of the city, on the way up to Grand Beach on 59 Highway. It was a very small ethnic European community settlement type thing there. And music was always important for all the people. I remember going to some of the youngest memories I have going to my grandmother's on my mom's side, my baba. And they had 6 girls in the family. And I remember at Christmas, Easter, listening to Ukrainian carols and sacred songs in 4-part harmony. We were there in the summer, they would sing for fun, but it was always a really, really interesting effect that it had on me. On my father's side, my father was a fiddler. He played guitar and banjo. He played in polka bands and dance bands around the Interlake. So there was always music in the house, and there would always be people coming over. An accordion player might come over, and they'd sit, and saxophone player would come over, they'd sit, and 4 or 5 guys would come over, you'd get a guitar out, and everyone would be playing and singing. So from the earliest age growing up, music was always there. As I grew older, we moved off the farm, we moved into Selkirk, and I had the opportunity to take drum lessons. I had a very influential instructor. His name was Bob Sapolsky. He was a member of the old RCAF band. He was a percussionist. And basically, my dad's idea was I should learn how to play drums so I could be the drummer in the band.
I was going to ask you what pushed you towards drums, and it was your dad's need for.
Well, that was his idea. And I thought that would be, what grade 5, grade 6 student doesn't want to be a drummer? So.
Yeah.
But again, Bob was a great instructor, and he had the military background really influenced me. I later became involved in cadets, so that served me well. At the same time, I was entering the band program in Selkirk, and I started with clarinet. Not sure why, it was just the instrument. Band director was an older gentleman. It was Ted Bachman. He was a German immigrant. And he would walk around to the students. I still remember to this day him coming up, "You play clarinet." And, you know, I don't think we could recruit students like that anymore.
No, no.
Was how he would do it. He would check your lips and your face, and what he decided was your instrument was your instrument. After that, I picked up saxophone as well. Went on to the high school. The new high school at Selkirk had just been built when I was going through that system. We had a really determined, really hardworking band teacher. Gloria Neal was her name. She was the original band director at the high school, at the new high school. And she really challenged us. She gave us all sorts of opportunities. I got involved with the jazz band. We would do ensembles. I was involved with the clarinet choir. We did musicals. The jazz band were basically an important part of the musical we did at school. She also taught part-time at Happy Thought across the river in East Selkirk. And she started up a marching band program there. And because I had had cadet experience, I was able to help her in getting a drum line going, getting a drum corps type program started there as well. So it was a lot of fun. Going through Selkirk was an amazing experience. That was probably the biggest influence on me wanting to become a music educator. Her enthusiasm, her determination.
And I assume she saw that in you too, right? It sounds like she would have nurtured that.
Yeah, well, there was, again, lots of strong students coming out of that program. She really did a great job influencing her students. Teresa Lee was a graduate of Selkirk. There's so many more. Tim Lawson, who taught down south. There were a lot of band directors ended up coming out of her program.
I had no idea that you all came from there.
Oh yeah.
And they still have a very, very strong tradition of music excellence coming out of the comp.
They do, yeah. The program there is amazing. I've sort of kept touch with the people that are working there, and I'm very proud to be an alumnus of Selkirk.
So where did you go from there?
Well, the influence, again, I had sort of two influences: my director at Gloria Neal at the comp, and then Bob, my private instructor. Because I was involved with cadets, I had sort of an interest in maybe going to the musical side in the military. But he basically told me, I would be far better off doing the education route, getting the degree. If I wanted to go into the military, that option was still there. But if you had that option of a teaching certificate, that just kept you much more flexible, and you had so much more opportunity.
What great advice for somebody who's really, again, started trying to figure out how they're going to go about it, right?
Yeah, and it was very close. Like I say, I was just as involved, I think, with cadets as I was with the school programs, and in a different universe, I might have gone a different way. I'm not sure.
So, what university did you go to?
I went to Brandon University. I graduated in 1976 from the comp, and I went directly to Brandon. I was in the 5-year integrated program. It was the first full year that they started that program in 1976. And I think there was about 50 of us in that very first year, which basically, in the old, if you're familiar with the old School of Music at Brandon University, it was very small, and we were basically just hanging out the windows to get 50 new students in there, never mind the previous grades that were in there. But it was an amazing place. I learned so much. I was just ready to soak it all up, and it was fantastic.
So you did the music and education degree altogether?
Yeah, it was a combined 5-year program. So we were able to do all our courses. We did some education courses within the education faculty, but we never left the music faculty.
Right. Well, it's funny, we have an ongoing debate in my household because I'm a U of M grad and my partner Chris is a Brandon grad. And so, yeah, it's always the big debate. Where did Kathy go to school?
Kathy went to Brandon. That's where we met.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you guys are a Brandon University household.
Yeah, we both started in the same first year, 1976. She was a choral student. She was there for the first year. Then she took 2 years off to go work. Then she came back in my third year, and we met after that. And I got over the fact that she was a choral person. I was a band person, and
Isn't that weird? Hey, such a divide. And there's the piano, there's the strings, there's the vocal, there's the band, right? But then yeah, we're all
well, there wasn't because it was such a small, tight knit grouping at the time. You know, everybody worked together. Everybody was close. I've got friendships that go there, that'll last forever, just from the people. Even from the time I started to the time I left. Even in my last year there, I still remember a young Rob Payne coming in, or a young Andrew Clausen coming in for the band workshop from his grade 12 year. So
Oh
we
my goodness.
some of our residences there.
Well, it's funny, right? I know when I was thinking about who I was going to interview for this series, I'm thinking back, who was in my first year with me, right? I had Mark Sawatsky was in first year with me. Darren Olerking was in first year with me, right? It's Megan Perry who I interviewed, right? It's like, how many of us from that first year, right? Am I still in touch with? And it's, yeah, these are some of the people that have been very, very important to me for the last 25 years, right? It's pretty wonderful. That's musicians, band people, right? So Dawn, I know again that you work with a lot of up and coming band teachers, and you've given them advice through working with them. For students who maybe aren't in university yet, but are thinking about going into music as a career, what sort of advice do you have?
Go with what your heart tells you. If you enjoy music, it is certainly a worthwhile career to pursue. You have to be patient, you have to be flexible, you have to be determined. Like I mentioned before, with the advice I got, having a teaching degree to fall back on is an important aspect of it. If you think you don't want to be a teacher, that's fine, but you're not necessarily going to pay the bills performing at the concert hall every week, especially in this day and age. So having that flexibility, being able to be adaptable, but above all, just follow what your heart's telling you. If you have that love of music, it will see you through. And even if you don't make a career out of it, I know I've had several students, and I know several students who have gone on, to start a degree in music. I've got a good friend from Brandon. She completed her degree in music there, and then she went on to do a medical degree. I know several of my former students who did 1 or 2 years of music. They went on, changed courses, changed streams. But again, the experience they had with the music was always invaluable, and you never lose that. And whatever happens down the road, try and keep music as part of your life. My son is a good example. He went through the band program, and he learned to play clarinet and saxophone. He learned to play bass guitar. He was in the jazz band. He quite enjoyed that. But he was also involved with provincial skiing, and that was sort of the direction he went, which was fine. But he's never lost that love of music. He'll still pull out, if I ask him if he can do some performing or playing, he will. We've had 3 family weddings in the last couple of years. So I said, okay, I'm going to write a bass part. Do you mind playing? No problem.
What a great thing to do as a family. Absolutely. So now I sort of skipped over one other question, and I am very extra curious as to what you're going to answer for this one. And Dawn, I say it to everybody, it's a family show, so keep it PG. What would you say one of the strangest gigs or jobs that you've ever been involved in has been?
Again, because of the amount of time I've been performing and playing, I've had a few over the years. Probably the most memorable one, well, okay, if you want to go with strange, I used to play in a polka band when I was going through high school and university. I played regularly with all the people I'd met growing up, and there was about 5 or 6 different groups. And these were, older musicians who a lot of them were immigrants from Europe. They were great musicians, and the fact that we were doing polkas, the money I got paid was just as good as playing for anything else. We played a wedding social, or not, I guess it was a wedding, close to Beausejour, an old hall called the Ladywood Community Hall, right in the middle of a flat prairie. And it was a Saturday night, and it was in July. It was kind of warm, so they opened all the doors and the windows. And as the sun's going down, of course, the bugs start coming out. And the mosquitoes got so bad, we couldn't play. It was just almost impossible. So there was 3 or 4 guys went out back to their farms, and they brought industrial-sized fans back to the hall. 2 of them, they aimed at the band, and they turned them on full, and we were able to finish the night playing without too much difficulty. It just basically blew the mosquitoes off of us. So that would definitely be weird.
No kidding. And yeah, Manitoba mosquitoes are, they're rather vicious.
I also remember from my high school days, and this was not weird, but it was sort of a special event that we ended up doing back before the pre-Optimus Festival. This is before the Optimus Festival existed. They used to be the Manitoba Music Festival. And they had competition for concert bands and jazz bands. And I think it was my grade 11 year. Our jazz band competed, and we won the gold medal. We won the provincial. So we got to compete at the provincial finals concert, which was being held at the Centennial Auditorium. So they gave it, and we were going to start the program. So they took us downstairs. If you know the hall, the front part of the stage actually goes down to the lower level.
Okay.
It's basically where the orchestra pit is. And that can be raised. So we set up down, we were acoustic. We had an acoustic bass. We didn't have anything electric to be plugged in. So we set up down there, and as the concert started, they raised the stage up to us playing In the Mood.
As you're playing. As
we're playing, and then the lights start shining on us. It was a cool experience.
I can imagine it looked a little epic.
It was almost like a big Hollywood production number right there in Winnipeg.
You needed bubbles or something too, right? Kind of like Lawrence.
If they would have had a light show maybe and some, smoke effects, but for 1975, that was a pretty ballsy move, I thought.
No kidding. That is fantastic. So these are strange times that we live in, indeed. And I would love to know if you have any extra little worldly bits of wisdom as to things that maybe you're doing to sort of help you keep going forward.
Just trying to stay positive. Enjoy what you do have. Take consolation in the positive things in your life. Be kind, loving, sharing with those that are around you. It's a personal philosophy that sort of got me through life. Try and stay as positive as you can.
Well, every single time that you and I get to hang out, it's always a joyful, positive experience. So I thank you for your friendship over the last 25 years. I feel very lucky to know you and to get to learn from you all the time, getting to watch you work with new student teachers and just getting to be in the same room as you when you come and sub for me now. I love the fact that we get to teach together sometimes, right? Because Trevor and I are both sometimes teaching in the same room, and sometimes you sub for him, and yeah, we get to team teach, and I couldn't feel luckier. So Don, thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day, and then I get to see you in person really soon and we can talk more about cruising.
Thanks.
All the best.
Take care.
Bye.